Kate. I'm going to read Sandy Lane Stables, Book 1, A Horse for the Summer by Michelle Bates. I'm on Chapter 10. An Unwanted Visitor. Life at Sandy Lane was kind of an anticlimax after the drama of the show. The only stir of excitement was caused by the arrival of entry forms for Ben Ridge. Tom was well aware that he would face much stiffer competition there than at the local show. Chansey would have to be at his very best if they were to have any hope of winning. And there was something that was preying on Tom's mind, something he had been putting off doing. 4 days had already passed since the local show. If he didn't say something soon, he never would. Nick, I was wondering if you would like to use Chansey in lessons now, Tom had said hesitantly. That's a very generous offer, Tom, Nick said thoughtfully. Tom's face dropped. Although he knew it was about time Chansey paid his way at Sandy Lane, Tom couldn't bear the thought of anyone else riding him. But I think it would be better if you alone rode him now that he's grown used to you. Nick continued. Until Ben Ridge, anyway. Besides, we don't really need him. You could say we're overloaded with horses, now that Feather's back in action and Stormcloud wasn't such a disaster by. Tom breathed a sigh of relief and strolled over to the hay bales by the old barn to join Alex and Jess. He took out the packed lunch that his mother had now allowed him to take to Sandy Lane. It had been a long battle until finally she agreed that there was no point in having him come home at lunchtime only to wolf down his food and hurry back again. Tom was also quick to point out that the other children there had their lunches at Sandy Lane. Tom knew that his mother wouldn't want to seem less reasonable than other mothers. Tom spread out the Ben Ridge entry form in front of him and munched happily on his sandwiches. Which classes are you going to enter? Tom asked Kate, as she joined him on the bales. Oh, only the open jumping. Chansey would hate the show classes. He'd never managed to stand still for long enough, Tom laughed. Well, I've entered absolutely everything, said Kate. I don't care which classes I win, just as long as minstrels plastered with ribbons. Though we've probably not got the best chance in the hunters, she said, blinking in brilliant sunshine. It's so bright out here, I can hardly see this entry form. Where do you put your name? Here, silly, said Rosie, who had wandered across the stable grounds and was looking over Kate's shoulder. They were all together now, all of the Sandy Lane regulars. Nick had selected Tom, Kate, and Alex to ride at Ben Ridge after their successes at the local show. Both Rosie and Jess intended to go as well to support their friends. Well, I'm still pretty excited about my first potato race, Rosie said, smiling. Although I'd rather it had been something a little more graceful, my brothers howled with laughter when I told them. Tom looked at his watch, 2:30. He had work to do with Chansey. Sarah was taking the others down to the beach for a ride. As much as Tom loved the beach, Nick had said that he would train with them for an hour in the rain. And with Ben Ridge less than 2 weeks away, that was an offer he couldn't refuse. He packed away what was left of his lunch and headed with sandwich in mouth to Chansey's stall. Chansey's head appeared over the doors as Tom held out the carrot that his mother had packed. He smiled to himself. Perhaps she was starting to feel some affection for his four-legged friend. Chansey stretched out his neck and sniffed apprehensively at the offering. It's not going to bite, silly, Tom laughed. Once Chansey was sure that it was edible, his silky lips mumbled over Tom's flat hand, and in an instant the carrot had disappeared. It had made Tom laugh to see Chansey so careful with his food, yet so bold when he jumped. Slipping into the stall, Tom tacked him up and led him out to the stables. The others were making a racket, getting their mounts ready for their beach ride. Tom had to muster up all of his willpower to stop himself from turning around and going too. It would be wonderful on the beach at this time. It would be wonderful at the beach at this time of day. See you later, Tom, Sarah called. Hey, Nick, we'll be back at 4. Certainly no later. Sorry about the mower noise. Certainly no later anyway. It's as high tide as at 4. Okay, I'll tell him, Tom answered. At low tide, the wide expanse of beach at Sandy Bay was cleared, but when the tide came in, the sand was flooded. If you weren't careful, you could find yourself cut off from the land. Nick was careful to post a monthly copy of Tide Times on the tackroom door and insisted that everyone check it before planning a ride to the beach. It was one of the first things that Tom had learned about when he had started at Sandy Lane. Right, Tom, said Nick, stepping out of the tackroom. Let's go. I've set up a course for you in the outdoor arena. See what you think of it. There's one difficult jump, but I think you'll be able to handle it all right. Okay, said Tom, forgetting the beach ride in an instant as he headed off to the outdoor arena. Its white fence looked crisp in the bright sunshine, contrasting sharply with the bright painted jumps. Nick had erected a figure 8 for them to practice over. Chansey eyed the course suspiciously. The hard jump proved to be a square oxer. Parallel bars, difficult for a horse to judge the stretch and clear. Tom muttered to himself. I'll watch you for a while, Tom, Nick said, jumping onto the fence. Then I've got to go and take a private group for a ride. Tom trotted around the arena and pushed Tom into an easy canter. Take him around once more, Tom said. Nick, it'll make him more balanced when he starts jumping. It'll settle his rhythm too. Okay, said Tom. And swiftly they cantered once around the ring. Ready? You could take him over the course now, Tom, Nick called. I want you to approach the first 2 jumps as a trot. It's good training for him. Tom circled Chansey one more time and then popped him over the post and rails. Trotting him over the stile, he turned down the wide corner of the arena to give him enough time to see the square oxer. Chansey had been paying attention and with little encouragement from Tom, stepped up to his pace and led over the jump, clearing it easily. Collectedly, Tom rode across the arena for a diagonal on the double. Be careful that you don't anticipate the jump and lean forward too early, Tom. Nick's voice boomed from the side of the arena. Let Chansey find his natural takeoff point, otherwise you'll unbalance him and he'll try to put in an extra stride. Then you'll be the one who's unbalanced, he said, laughing. Otherwise, pretty good. It's as though he's a different horse. He's always like this with me now, Nick, Tom shouted back. I think he's gotten used to me. He trusts me. I think you're right. Try him again, said Nick. Then I really have to go and get ready for this lesson. Tom and Chansey soared around the course, unaware that Nick had crept away, leaving them to it. Jump after jump was cleared in a swift succession until eventually Tom pulled Chansey to a halt. Leaping nimbly to the ground, he tethered him to the fence. That was just for practice, he said mischievously, as he went around the course, raising the jumps. Now this should wake you up. Tom never had any sense of time when he jumped. Chansey. Now he was so involved with his riding that he didn't notice the girl watching them from the shade of the cedar tree. Sulkily, she stared out at them. Excuse you. She stared out at them, screwing up her shallow face as she took it all in. That could be heard from the sound of Chansey's hoofs pounding against the ground as Tom and Chansey sailed over the jumps. Soon the others would be returning from their ride, and the stables would be buzzing with activity while everyone began cleaning up the grounds for the evening. Little did Tom know of what lay ahead of him. Happily, he jumped off Chansey to raise the jumps again, not satisfied with the stretch until he had stretched them both to the limit. Right, that's it for now, boy, he said tiredly as they knocked down a jump in the last round. You're exhausted. Chansey's sides were puffing in and out like bellows. You've had enough for one day. I don't want to push you too far. Ideally, he made his way to the gate and slid off the horse as the girl stepped out from the shadow of the tree. Tom was startled. The sun shone in his eyes as he returned to the stony gaze of the girl who stood opposite him. Georgina, he gasped. What are you doing back?